You know, most business owners fail not because of lack of talent, but something that we don't talk about a lot is lack of discipline. And they go through their daily routine, if it is a routine. See, that's the problem. When you don't have discipline, you don't really have a routine. You kind of fly by the seat of your pants, and you just tell people you own a business, and it sounds cool. And hopefully you're making a little bit of money, but most of the time you're not making enough money because of lack of discipline. So if you've not tuned in to the Greg McAfee Show before, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy it. I am the clean version of most home service podcasts. You won't hear any F-bombs. You won't hear any GD or anything like that. I profess to be a Christian. That's who I am. That's what I teach. A lot of business strategies is around the Bible, is around Christianity, and that's just what I do. So if you don't like that, it would probably be a good time to tune out right now. And I don't say that because I want to lose you. I say that because this is who I am and this is what I do. And a lot of times, or most of the time, I'm not telling you what you want to hear. I'm telling you what you need to hear as a business person, as a manager, as someone thinking about buying a business or whatever. So we're going to talk about today stewardship over success. Okay, so I have talked about John D. Rockefeller several times. We did a podcast on him. This one's going to be completely different than that because I'm going to talk to you about what I have learned from John D. Rockefeller. Now let's get started. Hey, this is Greg McAfee, and welcome to the Greg McAfee Show. Now let's get started. Okay, welcome back to the Greg McAfee Show, where we discuss steps to exceptional entrepreneurship, how to take your business to new heights, and ultimately follow your dreams. Today, we are going to be talking a lot about discipline in your business, and where I've learned quite a bit of discipline in my business from is someone that has been long gone for over 80 years. And that is John D. Rockefeller Sr. And John D. Rockefeller Sr. was one of the most disciplined business leaders in history. You know, I was on a podcast the other day. Nope, I wasn't on a podcast. I was on a forum on Facebook that has to do with blue-collar millionaires. And I had someone say, I volunteered, if any young guys in business need, if they have any questions, just ask me. I mean, I didn't know if it would get 5 people or 500 people, but it ended up getting over 3,000 likes, and I got a ton of texts and messenger texts about they need help, which I enjoy doing. That's why I threw it out there. But I had somebody say, hey, is there anybody in this forum that has grown a successful business in the last 10 years? In other words, what he was saying was, because I can learn from them better, I can't learn from anybody that's been in business 35 years. They haven't had to deal with stuff like we deal with today. I was like, really? Oh my goodness. I mean, if you want me to start listing things that you have today that I didn't have in the 90s, I mean, the list is pretty long, okay? So not taking anything away from somebody that built a business 10 years ago and created success by any means. It wasn't easy then. It isn't easy now. Let's just put it that way. So John Rockefeller, one of the most disciplined leaders in history. I learned from him. He's been dead 80 years. You can learn from anyone. I've learned from Harvey Firestone, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and definitely John D. Rockefeller. He had deep faith. He had deep structure. He had deep accountability. Why his thinking still applies to someone with 5 trucks or 500 trucks. Rockefeller didn't just build wealth. The wealth was the byproduct of everything he did. Now, was he one of the most competitive persons I've ever met? Yes. Yes. And I love that. Did he hate competition? Yes. Because competition got in his way, just like it got in my way. Out of 500 companies in my area, I've said this before, nobody truly understood how to compete with me. All they knew how to do was lower their price. That is not competition. That is not called competition. That is called ignorance of business. You don't just lower your price to get business. John D. Rockefeller hated competition because they were out there, dumping oil in the ground, just letting it flood the ground and pollute, basically. He didn't like that. He cleaned up the entire oil business. We would not be where we are today in the oil industry without John D. Rockefeller. By no means. He cleaned it up. He knew how to do what he did, and he did it well. And he built systems that forced responsibility on other people. I can relate to that. A lot of things that we did, it raised the bar in our entire industry, not just locally, but nationally. Because I held boot camps for many years. Many people attended my boot camps. They went back to their business and they raised the bar there, which caused someone else to raise the bar. Because see, when you start raising your bar, your quote competitors have to too, if they want to compete. We were the first, this is very small, but it was very big. We were the first in our area to wear shoe protectors. Years ago, we started wearing shoe protectors. I bought red ones on purpose so people could notice. Not blue, not black, red. And we had a specific way of putting on the shoe protectors. And a matter of fact, it got to be where if we didn't wear shoe protectors, your service call was free. And we did that well. I think I only had to pay one service call out of thousands. So, but what happened? What happened by that? Well, other companies had to start wearing shoe protectors because they would come to the door and the customer would say, "Do you have shoe protectors?" So I raised the bar. There was no trash on our dashboard. Our trucks were constantly cleaned. I provided a place in our company to clean trucks. I provided all the cleaning material to clean trucks, and I expected them to be clean unless it was sub-zero weather. We were washing trucks 2 to 3 times a week. It matters. Guess what other people had to do? They had to start washing trucks because it mattered. They had to take all the crap off the dashboard, which was known in our industry. If you were a heating and air guy, or if you were an electrician or a plumber or anyone else, years ago, back in the 80s and 90s, the dash was a paper collector. And I said right away, there will never be anything on our dashboards. That just mattered to me. I raised the bar. So let's talk about some of John D. Rockefeller's core beliefs. Business was a calling to John. It was a calling from God. And Rockefeller believed God cared about how money was made, not just making money. And profit wasn't greed. It was stewardship. Profit is not a bad word. If you think it's a bad word, you shouldn't be in business. You should go work for someone else. And loss from poor management was unacceptable. So if your managers aren't doing their job, it's unacceptable. They need to do their job or find another manager, and they need to find another job. So here's what I see today. There's too many owners of businesses winging it. You just kind of wing it. Go through the motions. Oh, you're very comfortable making just enough money to get by. I never thought that way. I can't think that way today. I never thought that way from day one when I started with $274. I never made enough money just to get by. I constantly reinvested money back into the business so we could one day do what I did 35 years later. And they lead emotionally. Everything's about emotions. Guys, you can't be a too high F. An F stands for feelings. You can't run a business based on feelings all the time. You've got to run a business based on thought. And of course, you got to have feelings. You can't have employees and teams without feelings, but feelings do not run your business. And you can't run your business on emotions because emotions and feelings change by the minute. Thought is pretty standard. It's grounded. The way I think today is probably the way I'm going to think tomorrow. And we can't confuse activity with progress. Busyness does not mean you're successful. Busyness actually means you don't have systems in place. Busyness actually means you're not delegating enough. Now, in business, for me, faith without discipline isn't faith. It's hope. And as much as I talk about hope, because without hope, you have nothing to hope for, you have nothing to look for, it's not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. It's discipline is a strategy. All right, the next one is my parallel journey. And 35 years of building a business, consistent as a Christian. By the way, I didn't believe in giving to the church. I was told by a parent that the church just wants your money and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't grow up with giving parents, with tithing by any means. A tithe means a tenth. And some of you may say, well, that was only in the Old Testament. Well, Jesus talked a lot about giving in the New Testament. And I just watched a documentary on Woolworth. And Woolworth, if you watch it, it's extremely sad because he made multi-millions of dollars from a 5 and dime store and never gave to anything, kept all his money, died unhappy with rotten teeth, and passed all his money, 100% of his money, onto his family. And within one generation, it was gone because they were also greedy, stingy, and they didn't give anything either. And it was gone. So I consistently tithed. When I started McAfee in 1990, I was a young Christian, about 2 years old, Christian, and I have consistently tithed. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to say that tithing is part of my life, and it has been since I started McAfee, and I tithed from the business, and I still tithe today in different ways from the business, 10 to 15% personally and far more corporately. That's just who I am. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I hope you are a giver. I hope you give. I hope you help children in your community. I hope you help families in your community. And that's part of my success. I was definitely involved in that from day one, first year in business, supported little league teams and stuff like that. And by the end, we were supporting hundreds of children, teams, from girls, boys, all that stuff, and feeding families and helping children get home from the hospital if they needed a filter or an air conditioner, whatever it took. We were there. I scaled responsibly, and I too believe, like John D. Rockefeller, I will be held accountable for how I operated my business and how I made my money. And to today, I can sleep extremely well knowing I did it not just right, but how God would want me to do it. Selling the business for me was what I call mission accomplished. and no regrets whatsoever. Some key lessons was that when I've talked about this on this show, when I sold my company after 35 years, I did have a little identity shock. But again, I found out talking to several business owners who have sold or retired or whatever, that is normal. Some last a month, some last 3 months, some last a year, some last 5 years. That's way too long. Mine lasted exactly 3 months and 2 weeks, and I have not had that feeling. We sold at the end of September, and it is January 10th today. I have not had that feeling in months. Thank God, because that was a terrible, terrible feeling for me. I just don't get down. And I was down for a while. So I also realize that our purpose comes back fast when your stewardship is right. And although I felt a little lost after the sale, and by the way, you also find out you kind of find this out, and it's not to bash anyone by any means, but your employees, your leadership team, you're their best friend when they work for you and you have something to offer them. When you no longer have something to offer someone, you really find out who your friends are. So you mix that a little bit with the identity issue, and you can go through what I call the moping period. But I'm glad I'm out of the moping period. So I felt after the moping period, I had no emptiness feeling at all. I felt accountable for what comes next. And that's what I started working on. I had already prepared. I'd already built this business, Platinum RV Storage. And I am now accountable for it. That company I sold is gone. It's still here, but it's gone in my mind. And I wanted complete separation, actually. I still do have some friends that were with me longer term, and that stay in contact with me, and it's very nice that they do. I don't want to get in anyone's way of the company, and I agreed not to, but I wanted complete separation. So even though I was leasing my building, that 30,000 square foot building I talk about all the time, even though I was leasing it back to my company, my previous company, I sold it. I listed it, and within 1 month, we had a cash deal, and we closed at the end of the month, and I was extremely blessed and extremely grateful that went through so nicely. And for tax purposes, it was great because sold the business, sold the building all the same year. I don't know how all that works, but it worked out extremely well, and I'll find out according to projections, but I will find out more coming soon in April. But anyway, I didn't feel empty after the moping period. I felt accountable to grow this company that I have now, and I'm extremely excited to do that. So if you look up something called the Rockefeller waterfall method, that's very similar to what I'm implementing now, and it is really cool, along with Travis, my son, Tiffany, my daughter, Lucy, my daughter-in-law, and of course my wife, Naomi. And we are into this. I'm into it more than anyone, but we are into this, and we have plans for the future, and I'm excited. I see things that are coming. I'm invested in things that are coming, and I'm super excited. And it all started with $274, the sale of the building, and all the way through today with Platinum RV Storage, looking at building phase 2, phase 3. It's going to be huge, largest indoor climate-controlled storage in the United States. So I'm excited, and things are going extremely well today. I really would like some feedback on this. I want to know what you think. We've got that last week's, we had over, what was it? The big three. We had over 10,000 views within 5 days. That's a lot for me. And that's not counting the other, that's just on YouTube. Okay. But anyway, please hit that like button. That really helps us too. Take time right now just to hit that like button. If you're still listening, please hit that like button. I hope you're still listening. And tell your friends about us. My goodness. Your business friends. Tell them about it. And as always, carry on. God bless. Make this day the best day of your life, because we're not promised tomorrow. I'll see you later.